recording. You consent to being recorded by staying in the call. And I will just call people out in the order that I see you. So, Renee, if you could do the first introduction.
Yes, René Daniels, technological project leader at Coastal RD&I, and mainly working on scaling up of projects, which is also including extrusion and mainly food extrusion, of course.
Yeah, and thank you. I didn't ask for you to mention why you're interested in this project, but I think you did for us anyway. Thank you for that.
All right.
You're showing yourself as a very professional info session participant. Joost, you're next.
Yep. Oh, I was not muted. Yeah, my name is Joost. I work for Dyni Group for the R&D department, and what we try to do is create new value out of co-products, and that could be in many ways. One of them extrusion.
Yeah, great. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Ewout?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ewout de Voogd from Algae for Food. We make emulsifiers and binders out of microalgae. And we're very curious how it works in all kinds of applications. And so it's a nice opportunity to test it and to learn.
Good to see you. Sarah?
Good morning. I'm Sarah. I'm an R&D engineer at Dutch Mills. Recently, we installed an extruder, so low moisture extrusion, and yeah, we want to learn more about it. For now, we don't make TVPs with it, but breadcrumbs, and we hope to learn more in this kind of projects.
Great, thanks. Sounds like a good match. Susanna.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Susanna van Beveren. I am the representative for the Cargill from our innovation center in Belgium. My role is within the Cargill. It's within the global innovation and growth specifically for meat alternatives, and it's everything linked around new ingredients and process development for the meat alternatives, and coordinating all the sites, global sites of the Cargill who are working on the meat alternatives. Perfect. So one of the structuring technology is also very important for us.
Yeah, good to hear. Welcome. And Eun-Young?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yeah, I'm Eun-Young Lee from CJ Jeje당 Korea company. Yeah, I'm in charge of the alternative protein product team in CJ Food R&D Center. So we developed the own low moisture TP in house. So this is the reason why I came here. I attended this meeting because I'm interested in making some good quality low moisture TP. So actually protein sources provide many kinds of effect on the final product of TPP. So yeah, I'm here. So it's a nice meeting you. Yeah.
Likewise, good to meet you. Are you in Korea? You're not in the Wageningen office, are you?
No, I'll go back to the Korea or go back to next Tuesday. So I'm in the Trust Retreat in Wageningen campus. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. And then the Wageningen team, Jacqueline, if you would introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Jacqueline Bergroot. I'm a scientist and a project leader at Wageningen. Food and bio-based research. Core area is structuring technologies for, alternative proteins.
Yeah. And my name is Stacey Pyatt. I'm a program manager within Wageningen Food and Bio-based Research, and my domain is proteins and protein transition. And my job is continuously setting up new projects like this, one part of my job. Good. I'm going to now share this slide and dive directly into just the conditions for the project, the way of working, etc. Just to be clear, you all know this, I am sure. We are talking now about a public-private partnership which mixes private sector contributions with subsidy contributions and thereby has certain conditions and ways of working. These are the basics set out by the subsidy agency. We should be looking at a pre-competitive project, a cross-value chain collaboration, And the project should have 2 feet on the ground. We should be developing some new knowledge, sort of pushing the frontiers of science, but also because this is a mixed subsidy, we have space to work on translating that to application, proof of concept, and model products, for example. Open to Dutch and international partners, preference for organizations that have feet on the ground in the Netherlands and or work together with Dutch partners if the Netherlands is, for example, a market for you, or vice versa if you are a customer of a Dutch company. Ewout, something going on?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for replying these slides. I mean, it also helps to think about it later on. I was just wondering, I mean, for a small company like we are, I understand the part you have to pay and in kind or not, but how big are the slices we need to do then in a year? So I need to make a reservation for, I think maybe 1 or 2 of these kind of projects for the upcoming 3 or 4 years. But how big are the chunks for a company like us, and especially on it's not the in-kind part, but more the cash in part? Is it 25K a year or 50K a year or 10K a year? What's the range?
Thank you for the question, because in my next slide, you will not have come up with those numbers from nowhere. My next slide, I give an indication of between 30 and 40K per partner per year. That's the starting point for our discussion on TKIs, but mainly what we apply for large companies, or maybe if you're on the high end of the SME category, if you've got just closed a funding round for 10 million and you've got, I don't know, 200 employees, we might aim for this as well. But with SMEs, it's really a sliding scale. I have some partners on some projects that are really, 1-person startup just spun out of a Dutch university. It will be very different what we can expect and ask for them to participate. But we love to stimulate entrepreneurship, and the subsidy really encourages us to support SMEs, particularly Dutch SMEs, as much as possible. So we really do it on a sort of one-to-one basis, engaging with you to find out what's possible. In some projects, we try to set a fixed amount that's half of the large company contribution for small companies. But to be honest, again, with those one-man or woman startups, sometimes it's even only in kind. It's really about sort of engaging and discussing what's possible. So you and I can have a short call because I noticed that you're exploring a few different projects. You and I can have a short call and see what would you like to participate in? What's your current situation in terms of number of employees or turnover or funding status, and we can come up with something. It's about exploring what feels fair to the rest of the partners. The subsidy agency doesn't give us conditions, and Wageningen doesn't have formal conditions. It's about how do we create something that feels fair for the whole group.
And is it sometimes that bigger companies think, hey, this is a nice source to work with, that they give sponsor the startup companies? For example, Kozen, are you sponsoring companies, starting companies on these kind of projects to bring in their knowledge and everything, or is it everybody has to bring his own part?
So I will say, so we don't have. I don't think it's allowed from the subsidy agency that a company, that there's money flowing between our partners for participation, but there is a new mechanism this year that we can explore that might be helpful. But let's take that offline. But it wouldn't be. I mean, I do think many of the large companies, and some of them who are on this call, do have sort of startup support and collaboration offices within their companies, but TKI would be a difficult mechanism to combine that with. Yeah, but thank you for the questions. If I get questions from SMEs, I can direct them to this snippet of this video. Good. So a typical project duration is between 2 and 4 years. Jacqueline, I've got too many PPPs in my portfolio. 3 years for this one. Thank you very much. I won't go over it. So the subsidy 50%, but I think I've said that. I won't go over that in more detail. The project is governed during execution by an oversight committee, and important to say, Wageningen has 1 vote. Our partners have 1 vote, so we are all equals. It's not a Wageningen project and you sit back and let it go. We want you to engage and help us make the project a success. Also, IP is something we do together. So the decision to protect or to make a patent is not an individual vacuuming decides that. The project committee always has oversight on which things we are going to protect inside of the project. And that's important for you to know, because if there is a finding that vacuuming has generated and we do decide to protect it, if you want to use that, commercialize that knowledge, you need to take a license on that. And all partners have the right to have an exclusive or non-exclusive license, but because of the European state aid regulations, then you need to pay back a subsidy that was applied to it, and we need to document that you've paid a fair market rate for taking that IP and commercializing it. If that raises questions for you about how all of that works, please let me know. The main message should be our goal is for you to walk away with the capacity to commercialize everything that we find, because the goal is to have impact in the world. Yeah, that's enough on this slide, I think. And I will then hand over to Jacqueline to tell you more about the project content. Feel free, if you have questions on this, feel free to jot them down. We can come back to them in the question section. Jacqueline.
Yes, thanks, Stacey. Next slide, please. Yes, so this info session is for TVPs from a broad range of protein sources. As many of you know, most of the meat analogs are made with texturized vegetable protein, TVP, making use of mixing and forming. TVP is very nice because it provides texture, it also provides bite, and next to that is it's also ambient stable, which can be very convenient. The TVPs that are currently on the market are mainly made from soy, wheat, and to a lesser extent also from pea and maybe some faba bean. We think there's a good opportunity to develop fundamental understanding of ingredient requirements for high quality TVPs, also using other sources, and then to broaden the range of cost competitive and sustainable TVPs by exploring protein sources and combinations of protein sources. So what we propose is TVPs from a broad range of protein sources, can also be local and less refined crops, but also from co-products. Sorry for using the word side streams. I think co-products is the best term here actually. And we would really want to translate, deep understanding, knowledge of dry extrusion to create an intelligent toolbox that can be used for optimal taste, texture, and cost for TVPs. Next slide, please, Stacey. So as I mentioned, many of the TVPs are actually made from soy, pea, and wheat. And they actually can be created from a broad range of protein sources, but usually they are made from, well, highly refined protein ingredients such as protein isolates, protein concentrates. Protein ranges vary between 50 and 70%, which is quite high. By making all kinds of combinations in literature, you also see that you can make different kinds of textures, different water holding capacity, and of course also the color and taste will be different. But blends of proteins may provide even the different functionalities, and of course also a more optimal nutritional value, but that is not necessarily what we would like to focus on in this project. We also really want to focus on cost competitive. Soy is often used, but pea, for instance, can be a cheaper source. We do know that pea has different challenges, but by combining, making blends, the properties can be altered. And of course, also, if we look at co-products, we may also be looking at more cost-competitive TVPs. Yes, please, Stacey. Yes, so the proposed project structure, well, in the end, we want to create an intelligent toolbox for creating a wide range of TVPs from alternative protein crops. We have a work package on the complete left that will focus on crops and pre-processing. Then we have the core will be about extrusion processing, where we look at blends, other ingredients, and of course extrusion conditions. And we have a work package on product quality and cost. Product quality like water holding, texture, but also taste. And also, well, the cost and sustainability. That is actually central to the project. We have to look at cost competitive and of course also at sustainability of making these TVPs from alternative protein crops. And they're all interconnected, as you see, with all the different arrows. One cannot go without the other. We did make some slides on the work packages. So Stacey, if you could go to the, oh, okay. So actually first about crops and other protein sources. The selection criteria is that they have to be available. Well, they could be local to our partners. Sustainable can range from legumes to seeds to nuts. Anything is still open. Even also the protein-rich co-products. The selection we should make as a team. In scope can be seeds, but also flour, maybe blending with protein concentrates and isolates to reach the functionality that you would want from a TVP. Yes. So if I'm going too fast, then please stop me. But work package 1 will be on the crops and pre-processing. The aim will be to, well, identify and select a range of different ingredients from different crops to create blends for local, but especially cost competitive TVPs. So we will look at, together with you, what kind of protein ingredients would be in scope. The aim is also, of course, to increase the functionality and taste of those ingredients. We think of dry and wet pre-processing steps to tackle some of the challenges. We will also characterize the ingredients and, of course, also develop blending strategies so that we get the optimal functionality and cost competitiveness for making TVPs. Yes, work package 2, that is about extrusion. The aim is to obtain an improved insight in dry extrusion processing and product quality interactions, also looking at ingredient properties, because we want to create that toolbox, so we need to get more understanding, develop more understanding. The approach is that we will be blending ingredients that were selected and created in work package 1. We will use a structured experimental setup for dry extrusion. You can think of design of experiments and all the analysis that you can do on that. A deep understanding of dry extrusion for this broad range of ingredients and the blends that we've selected. And later on, we can also evaluate the impact of additives on TVP quality, like for salt and sodium bicarbonate. I want to mention here specifically that fundamental modeling of dry extrusion is out of scope in this project. We have another idea that focuses really on more the fundamental modeling. So we decided not to push that in this work package or in this project idea. Yes, work package 3 is on TVP quality, where we will define and evaluate the TVP quality. We will develop robust methods to characterize TVP, which sometimes is challenging, but we will still develop them. We are going to measure water holding capacity, color, texture, and taste. And we will also assess the cost competitiveness. And we would like to apply it also in model products, selected model products, preferably with our project partners, because they are much more aware of what they are looking for in TVPs. And there will be a feedback loop, of course, to work package 1 and 2 on the quality and needed improvements. So we foresee activities by the industrial partners, not only in this work package, but also in the other work packages. But evaluation of application in model products, maybe even consumer tests. And it would be really great if we could also involve a chef to identify potential of the newly created TVPs in various food applications. Final slide. Yes, so actually it's not the final slide, but really about the content in envisioned results. We want to create an intelligent toolbox to make a wide range of TVPs from other protein sources. We will have TVPs from that broad selection. We have blending strategies to create optimal taste, texture, and cost competitiveness. We'll have a deep understanding of dry extrusion and robust methods to characterize TVPs. And of course, also the assessment of cost competitiveness and sustainability, environmental sustainability of the created TVPs. And in the end, evaluation of those TVPs in selected model products in collaboration with the partners. What kind of partners are we looking for? Well, of course, all of you, but ingredient suppliers like pulses, cereals, seeds or nuts, protein-rich co-products, TVP producers, producers of meat analogues and other applications in which you can use TVP, an extruder company, and chefs would also be very nice. I think this was, yes. You're muted, Stacey.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Could you, before we dive into conversation, could you position this a little bit in the portfolio? So you mentioned, because we have a project on rheology modeling, but we also have one on less refined sources. Do you want to talk about, just sort of talk about the unique positioning of this one relative to the others, especially because this week we've had so many info sessions.
So many, yeah. So
Yeah.
this will really be on focus on TVPs and creating more understanding of using other crops, other protein ingredients to make TVPs with functionalities that are really relevant for applications in meat analogues, for instance.
Yeah, and what I can add to that is, you know, looking at the portfolio of successful projects we've done in the past, we had one that was focused on high moisture extrusion, and you know, there the focus on one processing platform really is a strength. It allows us to dig into that, to really gain understanding and map out all of the possibilities that we have. That's in contrast to some of our other projects where we're looking more broadly, like the combined project, which is about less refined streams. We're starting from the ingredients and looking broadly across the application portfolio to find out, hey, in what types of applications can we most efficiently, most powerfully use these less refined ingredients? So it's a little bit different lens. We think there's room for both, but I'm interested in that discussion with everyone as we go along, seeing where we get sort of critical mass. But the strength of this one is in the fact that the scope is very sort of clear and directed through this lens of low moisture extrusion. Yes. Okay. Then goal will be to hear from all of you. So you can raise your hand. We'll take you, or I will call on you in order if you don't. But Ewout, thank you for volunteering to be our first commenter.
Yeah, it's not really volunteering. It's more a need to learn. I was curious about you just discussed about sustainability impact, and you would like to measure it. It was more on the goal of the project, but if you look at the work packages, it's not coming back there. So maybe work package 3 is one of the bullets missing, is about the LCA, or is it the sustainability there? So what was one question, and also what's the scope of that kind of analysis? And the other one is more on the cost level. You say, okay, we need to compete with current cost level. What is the current cost level? If you have to compete with soy, I mean, then it's horrible. If there's a little bit more space to have. So I'm really curious about cost level. Is it interesting, yes or no?
Okay. So to address your first question about sustainability, you are right. It's not mentioned anywhere. That's why I added it at the bottom with the project structure, cost and sustainability assessment, because I think it should be part of the project, but maybe it deserves a separate work package together with dissemination and project coordination, because it's not the main activity, but it is something that we will pay attention to. So we will not be doing a life cycle assessment because that is very costly, will consume a lot of the budget. But we do have tools to estimate the impact for CO2 equivalents, but also for water and energy. And for that,
just for the extrusion step, or for the complete chain,
for the complete chain,
from raw material to end product.
Yes, raw material
Okay, cool.
to end product. Yes, so that is about sustainability. About cost competitiveness, what we hear back a lot is that soy is so cheap, and that's why it's still so often used for making TVPs. So we want to look into other ways to make to use blends of ingredients but maybe also less refined ingredients. I'm sorry to come back to the term, but like just the seed or the pulse as is, or the flour, mixing some other things in to make it more cost competitive with soy. To be honest, I don't know the cost of soy TVP, but maybe somebody else can say something about that.
Thank you.
Well, we can look up consumer prices, but I think the prices that are agreed between supplier and food company end user are not widely available. Yeah, but we do have some information on the various raw materials costs going, like what does a soy protein isolate cost? What do different flours cost? At that level, we can try to aim for costs of raw materials going into the extruder that are similar to the current cost of materials going into the extruder. And then, the question is, and I mean, in algae, a refined concentrate or a refined ingredient from algae might be a bit more expensive, but if you can combine that with a flour to get to a decent protein level, it might be that a more functional ingredient combined with a less functional but bulking protein containing ingredient could work. Of course, the tricky part is there's a certain amount of protein that you need at any given. There is a hard limit, and we've been pushing that limit in other projects, looking how far can we go down in protein and compensate for that with the processing conditions. So we've got a good understanding now of how far we can go, but there is a hard limit to the amount of protein that's there, and that's the balance that you have to navigate in terms of cost. Yeah. Thank you for the question. It was a good discussion. Renee?
Yes. Jacqueline, you were talking about the intelligent toolbox.
Yes.
What is that, and how would that look like? What are you going to deliver, so to say?
Well, what I envision is a sort of window of operation for you. Well, obviously using low moisture, so dry extrusion, different blends of ingredients. Protein content is one of the factors in there. Looking at processing factors like temperature. And then for the different qualities that we find important for the TVPs, to get a sort of map and a window of operation.
Do you picture, maybe it's useful to talk a bit about the tools that you envision using for that? Is that a statistics experiment? Is that a knowledge-based white paper with visualization? Like just in more practical terms, Jacqueline, how far are you in thinking that out?
Well, not as far as making a white paper, but of course we will use the knowledge that we developed already and the knowledge that's already available in literature. We will use experimental design, so design of experiments, and the tools that you can then use, also using statistics to learn from that and make a window of operation based on those things.
Okay.
But in summary, more sort of, let me say, the classical method of defining the window of operations and ingredient combinations. So this is not like an AI or machine learning kind of project. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Young. Thank you. Oh, I think you're still muted, or at least I don't hear you.
So I try to ask about the capacity or size of the extrusion we are using when we started this project, and RD ratio or some size of the extrusion, because extrusion is, the lab scale, pilot scale, protein scale is not easy to scale up easily. So actually, the size or capacity of extrusion is very important points when we tested some research on the extrusion. So that is the reason why I'm asking this question.
Okay. So the question is what kind of extruder we will be using, right? With what features?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have several extruders in-house, several sizes, several capacities. We have one extruder it is a food grade extruder with which we can produce fit for tasting samples. and that is a L/D 2040. Has a capacity of 1 to 20 kilograms per hour. And that's the one that we envision to use, but we also have other extruders, but they are also used for bio-based materials. So then samples cannot be tasted. And there we have even larger extruders. I don't know the dimensions, like the LOD, I don't know by heart, but I could let you know if that is of interest.
I think it's also useful to mention at this point that in developing our list of ideas, we were in discussion with an extruder supplier who indicated an interest in doing work of this kind. And our goal would be to have at least one. Usually they are a bit competitive, so probably only one, but to have an extruder manufacturer on board this project, which would give us access to their insights and also potentially to their in-kind contribution, helping us prepare samples and test some of the upscaling.
Could you share the picture of the extrusion you mentioned? It's a food grade, it's a smaller one, extra in later.
Sure, I can. I will do that later. Yes.
Maybe, Jacqueline,
thank you.
At some point in the past, we did make a list of the extruders that we have in-house. Might be useful. We can send that around together with the materials from this meeting, just so you have an idea what we have. And of course, it's not that we are not the only ones doing work on the project, right? It's a collaborative project, so we love it when partners make their pilot facilities accessible and that we can do trials, upscaling trials as a joint exercise. But we can inform you about what we have. Joost, you're unmuted. Does that mean you're ready for me to call
Yes,
you?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Great.
Question about the amount of ingredients that can be included in this project. And another one is, do you have a certain end application in mind? Or because I can understand certain TVPs need different characteristic for certain end application. So
Very good question. Yes. So I'm starting with the final question about the applications. We were thinking of sausages and patties, in which TVPs are often used. Another one could be a TVP to be used as is in, for instance, stews or other kinds of dishes. So to not incorporate them in an application, but in a final meal. I would say it also depends on what kind of partners would like to step into this project idea. So we're open to that, but I would like to stick to 2, maximum 3. And in terms of ingredients, it also depends a bit on how large the project is going to be, what kind of partners are interested and would like to join. Because of course we would like to make use of the ingredients that the partners have to offer. So I find it hard to put a number on that at this point. But it's definitely something that we have to scope. Yeah, so I'm sorry not to give a hard number, but
it's okay. Yeah, understand.
Something that came up in previous info sessions and is a sort of recurring theme. We acknowledge, so part of the reason why we don't make hard or fixed pre-selections of this type of ingredient or that collection of applications is we know that there are non-negotiables for many of our partners. I mean, if you are, I don't know, you have fava beans, if fava bean is a non-negotiable for you, great, we'll include fava bean in the portfolio and we'll look for what can be complementary and be a good fit to put next to that. So it's an invitation also to partners to bring in their priorities, and we're open to that. It can be that an end user says, well, maybe we don't have anyone who's really interested in patties, but the meatballs in the soup. So we really need to also explore TVPs that are moisture resistant, more resilient. I don't know what the word would be, but that's open to the discussion that we'll have with our end user partners as well. And it's really a sort of collective steering, right? So as a group, when we head toward the September submission, we try to make those things more clear so that everybody has certainty that what they're in the project for is definitely a part of the scope. Thank you. Good question. Susanna, you're unmuted. I'm calling
Yeah.
on you then.
And I would continue, in fact, more on the application side, because from the ingredients was said already quite a lot. But from the application perspective, I hear that we focus again on the red meat, whereas we see there is quite big tendency on the market to go on the white meat mimicking, right? And there, everybody are looking on very light colored TVP. So I think it might be interesting to have a look also on that subcategory only really on white meat mimicking. Why? Because on the red meat you can do a lot of camouflage with the colorants, whereas in the white meat the color of the TVP it's so critical for success on the market. Then I think that I would even put it on the priority within the project team. So have a look how we, for example, ingredients combinations or even some, we call it as a waste streams, but upcycling streams can help us in the maybe in the color improvement of the TVP. So that would be my suggestion as a first one. And the second one, again, also from the application perspective, is a lot about the heat resistance, heat treatment resistance. So for the sterilization processes, like you say, like Campbell type of the soups. And then another very important parameter for the TVP is freeze-thaw stability. So if you are really going to the sausages, have a look on the raw uncooked patties, which are frozen, and you know that the TVP plays super critical role on the freeze-thaw stability there. So I would definitely add these two parameters on the characterizations, and then also in terms of characterizations, are we thinking about analytical texture analysis, characterization, and correlations with sensory, because that's also very important for what we measure, but how we as a customer and end consumer taste it in fact in the finished product. So maybe even try to follow up the track with the TVP is happening in certain model recipe through the different heat treatment steps or freeze-thaw steps. That would be my suggestions to add from the application and use perspective.
Thanks a lot. That's really important indeed. I wrote it down. And
Thank you.
also about connecting analytical measurements with sensory. I think that's also a holy grail. But yes, I agree with you. That's very, very important.
Yeah, all great points. Thank you, Susanna, for pointing us in the right direction of where we putting a dot on the horizon, let's say, showing us the big challenges. That's exactly the feedback we love to have at this stage. Eva?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Chefs, what are you looking at chefs? Is chefs from companies or chefs from restaurants? What are you looking for?
Good chefs.
What does it mean?
Chefs that like innovation, I would say.
Do you have a network from your program with chefs who really like to play around and experiment with all these kind of solutions, or is this just underdeveloped? You just don't have any connections there.
We have some connections, and I think open to this discussion. I think the motivation to want to incorporate it here is to acknowledge, you know, as a research institute, we can take our experimentation so far, you know, but when we are really working on getting the sensory feedback, it is useful and extremely helpful to have some more culinary look involved. Our network of chefs tend to be more, yeah, those who enjoy and appreciate and deliberately choose to engage with science. We know, of course, some companies also have their own chefs in-house, and we'd love that to be an in-kind contribution from some of our company partners. At this stage, it's more of us putting a wish out there and seeing what comes back. Say it like that. Sarah?
Yes, I think I'm the last one. Yeah, it was very clear, your presentations for now. I think all my questions have been answered by the other ones. So yeah, I have to think more about it, but it's really interesting.
Great, good to hear. Thank you. Other questions or thoughts? Okay, Wow, this is great. We are extremely well. I usually have to rush through the conversation about what happens next. But today we have a luxurious timeline for it, which is great. All right. So we are basically working backward from a deadline of September 1st right now, which is the moment when we need to submit our full proposal. Since this time I have the luxury of speaking about this in a bit more extended way, I will tell you, some of you who participated in public-private partnerships 2 or 3 years ago will remember having to submit a formal letter of commitment. That's no longer the case. So we do need a commitment, but if you just indicate your commitment by September via an email or via communication to myself or one of the members of the project team, that's sufficient for now. So we thankfully don't have to go through the process of getting formal signatures over the European summer holiday, which has always been a bit of a nightmare. That said, it is important to us that your commitment is firm by September so that the partners who submit the proposal are the same partners who are there executing the project with us. So we would ask you between now and the September deadline to also engage with your internal stakeholders and sort of get commitment and make sure that your commitment is firm by September. Because of the summer holiday, we want to have a firm head count for the project as we go through July, which gives us from now about 8 weeks to get a good head count on the project. And projects that just don't have a critical mass, we can let go of. There's no reasons for us. We don't try to sort of pull a dead horse or submit a project where there's not sufficient commitment. We try to have a really good portfolio of projects where we have engaged partners. Sarah?
Yes, in this case, so how can we think of the amount of work is what is expected from us in June and July? How much of our time should we invest in it to give or co-create a project with you?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. And I realize I've been quite abstract about that in previous info sessions, like, hey, who's willing? The short answer is we'll take whatever you can give us. I think what we love to do, so I've been talking about sort of deep dive sessions. We love to do sort of interviews with 3 or 4 highly motivated partners that we can just, our researchers can sort of ask all their questions and sort of pull out your needs and wishes in a bit, either a small group or one-to-one session. But that, that's probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half of your time. Then what will happen is after having sort of pulled out that information, the colleagues will make a draft 80% version of a proposal, and we're looking for some partners, some interested partners who will go through that, sort of just read through it and check on deliverables and sort of the structure and give us a bit of feedback on that first draft proposal so we can firm it up, we can make it stronger. And that's optional. I mean, we love it if there's a group of 4 or so who are willing to do both of those to sort of do a brain dump with us and then also review at least the draft of the proposal. It's only 8 weeks, so it's not, we can't do 5 rounds of incremental improvements on the proposal. It's really going to be one core round going from draft to a near final version. And then, we'll send it around to everybody to have a look and help us just do the last polish and sharpening. Thank you for the question. Also here, this is my best info session. We're covering so many good things. I wish I could share this recording with everyone. All right, September 1st, so co-creation for the coming 8 weeks, and then end of July, basically just an indication. If you can give me an idea by end of July where you're, how it's shaping up so that we can do that sort of go, no go on the basis of head count. After September 1st, we go into the contracting trajectory. I don't know if anybody catches it. I've updated this to be November. Someone who's involved in that process told us we'll probably get notification in November. I had October in the slide because in the past it's been late October, but maybe early November when we hear this year. And then we go through the contracting, and at that point, the commitment becomes legally binding. So all of this commitment heading up to that moment is, important that you take it seriously for the relationship. We like to have sort of honest input from you, but it's not legally binding until we sign that contract, which doesn't happen until early 2025. Good. I think that's it, unless there are any last questions from any of you. And I will just tell you what happens next. I will send around the recording. I will send around a PDF of the information of today. And I will ask Jacqueline and the team to give a little bit of information about the extruders that we had. In that email, I will also ask you to respond to me. If it's a no for the project, please let us know. That helps us get an accurate head count. We love yeses. If you're willing to do that sort of interview and you'd like to review our draft and help us improve it, we'd love to see some of you on board of that as we go forward. That's all for now. And we look forward to staying in touch, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.